I spent 2 years making the ring. Every diamond was placed by my own hands. Every curve of the platinum band carried a memory of us. I wanted it to be more than jewelry. I wanted it to tell our story. When I finally closed the velvet box, I whispered to myself, "This is the beginning of our forever." That evening, I took Victoria to a quiet rooftop restaurant overlooking Boston Harbor. She smiled politely as the waiter poured wine. "The view is beautiful," she said. "I hope you'd like it. You've been acting mysterious all week." "I've been planning something." She raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" I laughed. "Hopefully not." Dinner passed with easy conversation, though I noticed she checked her phone several times. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just work. It can wait for one evening." My clients don't always agree. When dessert arrived, my heart pounded so hard I barely heard the music around us. I stood, walked beside her, and pulled the velvet box from my jacket. She looked surprised. "Ethan." I opened the box. The diamond caught the golden sunset. "Victoria Hayes," I said softly, "you've been my best friend, my greatest supporter, and the person I want beside me every morning for the rest of my life." I took a slow breath. "Will you marry me?" For several long seconds, she said nothing. The smile I expected never appeared. Instead, she looked at the ring as though it were a difficult legal document. Finally, she sighed. "It's beautiful." Relief rushed through me. Then, she gently closed the box. "I don't want to wear it." The words landed harder than I expected. I stared at her, unable to speak. She folded her hands calmly. "Please don't misunderstand me." I forced a smile. "What do you mean?" Victoria looked at me calmly. "I don't like wearing expensive jewelry." I blinked. "This isn't about the price." "I know. I made it for you. I appreciate that." "Then why won't you wear it?" She looked toward the harbor before answering. "Large rings attract attention." I frowned. "So, I don't enjoy people staring." I searched her face for some sign that she was joking. There wasn't one. "This is an engagement ring." "I know. People are supposed to notice." "I'd rather they didn't." I laughed nervously. "Victoria, every couple wears one." She shrugged. "I'm not every couple." Silence settled between us. Finally, I asked, "Are you saying no?" Her eyes widened. "No. You still want to marry me?" "Of course." "Then why does this feel like rejection?" She sighed. "Ethan, you're making this emotional." "How could I not? It's only a ring." I looked down at the velvet box, still resting in my hand. "It isn't only a ring. It represents 2 years of my work." She reached across the table and gently touched my wrist. "I know how much effort you put into it." "Then wear it." She slowly shook her head. "I don't want clients asking questions. They'll congratulate you. They'll become distracted." I couldn't understand her reasoning. "So what do you want me to do?" "Keep it safe." "For how long?" "Until after the wedding." I stared at her. "You don't want to wear your engagement ring until after we're married?" She nodded. "It'll be simpler." The answer made no sense. Yet I loved her enough to search for excuses she wasn't giving me. Maybe she truly hated attention. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe I was expecting too much. I closed the velvet box and slipped it back into my jacket. "If that's what makes you comfortable," I said quietly, "I'll keep it safe." She smiled with relief. "Thank you for understanding." I smiled back. Inside, something small had already started breaking. We left the restaurant just as the city lights reflected across the harbor. Victoria slipped her arm through mine. "You've gone quiet," she said. "I'm thinking." "About the ring?" "About us." She stopped walking. "Ethan, please don't turn one disagreement into a problem." "I'm trying not to." She kissed my cheek. "I love you." I wanted those words to erase the doubt inside me. Instead, they only covered it for a moment. The next afternoon, I returned to my jewelry studio. Mason walked in carrying 2 coffees. "So," I smiled weakly. She said yes. He grinned. "That's great." I hesitated, but she refused the ring. His smile disappeared. "What?" "She doesn't want to wear it until after the wedding." He frowned. "That doesn't make sense." "She says engagement rings attract attention." He stared at me. "And you believe that?" "I want to." He placed the coffee on my workbench. "Ethan, does she ever get excited about marrying you?" "She has her own way of showing it. Or maybe she doesn't." I shook my head. "You don't know her like I do." "I know you." "What does that mean?" "You keep making excuses whenever she hurts you." Before I could answer, my phone vibrated. Victoria. I answered immediately. Hi. I'm leaving for Chicago tomorrow. The legal conference? Yes. I'll miss you. I'll only be gone a few days. She paused. Keep the ring somewhere safe. I will. We'll deal with it after the wedding. All right. I have to go. The call ended. Later that evening, Olivia Carter, our wedding planner, visited my studio to review final details. She smiled politely. Everything is almost ready. That's good to hear. She glanced toward the ring resting inside its velvet box. It's beautiful. Thank you. Then she looked at me carefully. I hope your fiancé appreciates how much love you put into it. I smiled. So do I. I locked the ring inside my safe, believing I was protecting our future. I had no idea I was protecting the last promise that still belonged to me. The Nantucket estate looked exactly as I had imagined for months. White flowers lined the stone pathway. The ocean shimmered behind the wooden arch. Rows of elegant chairs stretched across the lawn, waiting for family and friends to witness the happiest day of my life. Instead, I stood alone at the altar. I adjusted my jacket and checked my watch. 10 minutes remained before the ceremony. Olivia Carter walked toward me with a clipboard in her hands. You look ready, she said with an encouraging smile. I've been ready for a long time. She glanced toward the entrance. Has Victoria called? Not yet. I'm sure she's on her way. I hope so. She squeezed my arm gently. Everything else is perfect. I only need one person. She nodded without answering. Guests continued arriving. Soft conversations filled the air. Some smiled at me. Others looked toward the entrance, expecting the bride to appear at any moment. Mason stepped beside me and lowered his voice. Have you heard anything? No. When did she text you last? Late last night. What did she say? See you tomorrow. Get some sleep. He frowned. That doesn't sound like Victoria. I forced a laugh. Maybe she's nervous. Ethan. What? You've been making excuses for weeks. I'm not doing that. You are. I looked away. I'm choosing to trust the woman I'm marrying. Before Mason could answer, my phone vibrated inside my pocket. I smiled immediately. It's her. I answered without hesitation. Victoria? Her voice sounded calm. Ethan. Relief flooded through me. Thank God. Where are you? There was a brief silence. Then she quietly said, I'm not coming. For a moment, I thought I had heard her wrong. What did you say? I'm not coming. I gripped my phone tighter. Victoria, everyone is here. I know. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. I know that too. My heartbeat became painfully loud. Where are you? At Logan Airport. I stared at the ocean, unable to believe her answer. You're at the airport? Yes. You should be walking down the aisle. I have an emergency client meeting in New York. Our wedding is today. My client couldn't wait. I closed my eyes. I've waited 2 years for this day. It isn't the end of the world. It feels like it. She sighed impatiently. Ethan, you're making this far more dramatic than it needs to be. I'm your fiancé. I know. I'm standing in front of 100 guests. You'll explain it. Explain what? Tell them something came up. Our wedding came up. This meeting affects my promotion. Our marriage affects our future. We can get married next month. You think today is just another appointment? It is only one afternoon. It is supposed to be the beginning of our life together. She stayed silent for a second. Then she spoke calmly. You always let emotions control your decisions. And you never let them matter. I have responsibilities. So do I. My career comes first today. I felt every word cut deeper. Does our relationship come second? She didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, we'll talk after I get promoted. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You expect me to stand here alone? You're good with people. Victoria, you'll handle it. Before I could say another word, the line went dead. I slowly lowered the phone. The waves still crashed against the shore. The music still played. The guests still smiled. Only my world had stopped moving. I stood frozen with the phone still in my hand. Mason looked at me. What happened? I struggled to answer. She isn't coming. His expression hardened. What? She chose a client meeting. He stared at me in disbelief. You're kidding. I wish I were. He took my phone. Call her again. I already tried. Then tell everyone exactly what she did. Before I could respond, Eleanor Hayes hurried toward us. Her face looked tense, but her voice remained controlled. Ethan, we need to handle this carefully. Handle what? Victoria made an unfortunate decision. I laughed bitterly. That's one way to describe it. She lowered her voice. Will announced that she suffered a sudden medical emergency. I looked at her. She didn't. I know. Then why would I lie? Because people don't need to know the truth. They deserve it. Our family's reputation matters. I shook my head. My dignity matters too. She frowned. Please don't embarrass Victoria. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She abandoned me. She's under enormous pressure. So am I. Mason stepped forward. Mrs. Hayes, enough. She looked at him coldly. I'm trying to protect everyone. No, he replied. You're protecting one person. Silence settled between us. Guests had begun whispering. Several people checked their watches. The music stopped. Every second felt heavier than the last. I looked toward the empty aisle we had spent months planning together. The flowers, the chairs, the ocean. Everything remained beautiful except the moment itself. Humiliation slowly turned into anger. Then I heard soft footsteps beside me. Claire Bennett stopped at my side. She looked directly into my eyes. You don't have to face this alone. I swallowed hard. She offered me a gentle smile. If you're willing, she said quietly, I'll walk beside you. For the first time that afternoon, I felt completely seen. I looked at Claire for several long seconds. Are you serious? I asked quietly. She nodded. I'm not asking to replace anyone. I know. I'm asking to stand beside a friend who shouldn't have to face this alone. I glanced toward the guests. They came to watch a wedding. They came because they care about you. They'll pity me. They'll admire your courage. I let out a slow breath. I don't feel courageous. You don't have to. You only have to take one step. I looked down the flower-covered aisle. Just minutes earlier, it had felt like a path leading toward humiliation. Now it looked different. Mason stepped beside me. I think she's right. You do. Running away gives Victoria control over today. I folded my arms. So what do I do? Claire smiled gently. Walk. As friends. As friends. Nothing more. Nothing more. Her answer made me trust her immediately. Olivia approached us with careful eyes. Whatever you decide, she said, I'll support it. I looked at all three of them. For the first time since Victoria's phone call, I didn't feel completely alone. I nodded. Let's walk. Claire slipped her arm through mine. She didn't pretend to be my bride. She didn't try to comfort me with empty promises. She simply stood beside me. The music began again. Guests slowly rose from their seats. Whispers spread through the crowd. I heard someone quietly ask, Who is she? Another voice answered, I think she's his friend. I lifted my head. Every step still hurt. Every heartbeat still reminded me that Victoria had abandoned me. But I refused to let her steal every memory from this day. Claire leaned closer. You don't have to smile. I don't think I can. You don't have to. So what should I do? She squeezed my arm gently. Just keep walking. For the first time that afternoon, I believed I actually could. We reached the wooden arch overlooking the ocean. The minister looked at me with quiet concern. Would you like me to say a few words? He asked. I nodded. Please. He smiled gently. Today did not unfold as anyone expected. Sometimes life changes our plans without asking permission. Even so, courage is measured by how we respond, not by what happens to us. His words settled inside me. I looked across the guests. Many were wiping tears from their eyes. No one laughed. No one whispered anymore. They simply watched. Claire released my arm and stood beside me. She kept a respectful distance. She wanted everyone to understand exactly why she was there. The ceremony ended with quiet applause. As people approached, I heard one guest say, You handled this with incredible dignity. Another added, You deserve far better. I thanked them, though my heart still felt painfully heavy. While everyone gathered for photographs, several guests asked if Claire would stand beside me. She looked at me first. Only if you're comfortable. I nodded. I'd appreciate it. The photographer smiled. Stand a little closer. Claire did. She never pretended we were a couple. She simply smiled with kindness. Camera flashes filled the afternoon. A guest laughed softly. These are beautiful. Another replied. They'll remind him he wasn't alone. Later, Mason walked over holding his phone. You should see this. I looked at the screen. Pictures from the ceremony had already appeared online. Comments poured in beneath them. He deserves better. Real loyalty looks like this. What incredible strength. I stared quietly. I never wanted attention. Mason smiled. You didn't ask for it. He slipped the phone into his pocket. But today reminded people what kindness actually looks like. For the first time since the wedding began, the painful silence inside me started to feel just a little less cold. The reception ended quietly as the sun began disappearing beyond the ocean. Most of the guests hugged me before leaving. Each kind word eased a little of the weight inside my chest. Claire walked beside me toward the empty garden overlooking the beach. She looked at the waves for a moment before speaking. I'm sorry today became this. So am I. I know this isn't how you imagined your wedding. I laughed softly, not even close. She folded her hands. I understand more than you think. I turned toward her. What do you mean? My fiancé left me 3 years ago. I blinked. I didn't know. I never tell many people. What happened? He chose someone with more money. I'm sorry. She smiled sadly. I spent months wondering what was wrong with me. And eventually, I realized the problem wasn't me. Her words stayed with me. I wish I could believe that about myself. You will. I'm not sure. You loved honestly. I did. You kept your promises. I tried. You aren't the one who walked away. I looked down at my hands. I still love Victoria. Claire nodded without judging me. Love doesn't disappear in one afternoon. I hate that you're right. You can love someone and still accept they weren't right for you. I stared at the quiet ocean. I don't know how to let go. You don't have to decide today. She smiled warmly. Just decide to keep living. For the first time in weeks, I smiled without forcing it. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I do. She shook her head gently. One day you'll understand that real love never makes you beg to be chosen. As I watched the last light disappear beyond the water, I realized something had quietly changed inside me. Genuine kindness felt warmer than perfect beauty, and that warmth gave me hope I thought I had lost forever. 3 days after the wedding, I unlocked my jewelry studio before sunrise. The silence felt different. It no longer reminded me of abandonment. It reminded me that I still had work to do. As I arranged gemstones inside the display case, the front door opened. Victoria walked inside, wearing the same confident expression she always wore in court. She folded her arms. So this is where you've been hiding. I looked up calmly. I've been working. She glanced around the studio. You've caused quite a mess. I did. The wedding photos are everywhere. I didn't post them. You didn't stop people from sharing them. I closed the display case. What exactly do you want from me? She stepped closer. You embarrassed me. I stared at her, almost unable to believe what I had heard. I embarrassed you? Everyone thinks I'm the villain. You left me standing alone at the altar. You made it worse by walking with another woman. Claire walked beside a friend. The internet doesn't see it that way. I remained quiet. Victoria sighed. You should have canceled everything. So everyone could believe I disappeared? You should have protected my reputation. I laughed once quietly. You never protected my heart. Her expression hardened. You always make everything personal. It was my wedding. It became a public spectacle. You created that spectacle. Before she could answer, my phone vibrated. Mason. I answered. Hey, you need to see today's news. What happened? Victoria's law firm is already losing clients. I looked at her. She frowned. What are you staring at? I ended the call. Nothing. She looked uneasy for the first time. I told you this would pass. I quietly replied. I'm not sure it will. For the first time since she walked away from our wedding, I noticed something unexpected. The confidence in her eyes wasn't certainty anymore. It looked a little like fear. Victoria looked away for a moment before speaking again. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I shook my head. No, don't lie to me. I'm not. You wanted people to hate me. I wanted you to choose our wedding. She opened her mouth, but said nothing. Before either of us could continue, the studio door opened again. Olivia Carter walked inside, carrying a folder. She stopped when she saw Victoria. I didn't realize I was interrupting. Come in, I said. Victoria crossed her arms. What do you want? Olivia remained calm. I came to return the venue records. She placed a folder on my desk. I also thought Ethan should have these. Victoria narrowed her eyes. What are they? Olivia opened the folder. Copies of every message we exchanged before the wedding. My heartbeat slowed. I never asked for those. I know. She looked directly at Victoria. But your mother has been telling everyone you suffered a sudden medical emergency. Victoria answered immediately. It was easier that way. Olivia calmly slid several printed pages across the desk. I couldn't stay silent after hearing that. I picked them up. The messages were exactly as I remembered. One stood out immediately. Victoria, I'll be in Chicago that morning. Don't tell Ethan until I call him. Another followed. Olivia, are you certain? He spent months planning this. Victoria, he'll recover. My career comes first. I lowered the paper slowly. The room became completely silent. Victoria looked uncomfortable. You weren't supposed to keep those. Olivia replied quietly. I keep every conversation with my clients. Victoria turned toward me. I can explain. I looked into her eyes. I don't think you can. Her shoulders dropped. For the first time since we met, she had no argument ready. Only silence remained between us. That silence said far more than any excuse ever could. Victoria quietly picked up her purse. I should go. I stepped aside without saying anything. She paused at the door. Ethan. I looked at her. I never wanted things to become this bad. I answered honestly. They became this bad the moment you chose your career over us. She lowered her eyes. Then she walked away. The studio became silent again. Olivia gathered the remaining papers. I hope you don't mind that I brought those. I don't. You deserve the truth. I needed it. She smiled gently. You don't have to spend your life proving your worth to someone who never appreciated it. After she left, I sat alone beside my workbench. Instead of replaying old arguments, I opened a fresh sketchbook. I picked up my pencil. For the first time in weeks, I designed something without thinking about Victoria. The lines came naturally. Each sketch reminded me why I had fallen in love with creating jewelry long before I had fallen in love with another person. Later that evening, Claire stopped by the studio carrying 2 cups of coffee. I thought you could use this. I definitely can. She smiled as I accepted one. How are you holding up? Better than yesterday. And tomorrow? I think I'll be better than today. She nodded. That's all healing really is. I looked around the workshop. I spent so much energy trying to understand why she left. And now, I'd rather spend that energy building something new. Claire smiled warmly. I'm proud of you. Why? Because you're choosing your future instead of your anger. Her words stayed with me long after she left. As I locked the studio that night, I realized I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. I wasn't chasing another explanation. I couldn't control Victoria's choices. I could only control my own. For the first time in months, that realization felt stronger than the heartbreak. I walked into the cool Boston night, knowing I was finally becoming someone whose happiness no longer depended on another person's approval. Nearly 4 months passed before I saw Victoria again. Business at my jewelry studio had slowly returned to normal. Customers no longer came because they recognized me from the wedding. They came because they trusted my work. I was polishing a custom engagement ring when the front door opened. The familiar sound of heels against the wooden floor made me look up. Victoria stood in the doorway. She looked different. The confident lawyer who had once controlled every room was gone. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. Her shoulders were lower. Even her expensive suit looked too large for her. Neither of us spoke at first. Finally, I broke the silence. Hello, Victoria. Hi, Ethan. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I noticed something that immediately stole my attention. The engagement ring. My engagement ring. The one she had refused to wear. It rested on her left hand. I stared at it. She slowly raised her hand. I know what you're thinking. Do you? I should have worn it that night. I placed my polishing cloth on the workbench. Why are you here? She took a careful step forward. Can we talk? We're talking. She looked around the quiet workshop. Please. I pointed toward 2 chairs near the window. We sat across from each other. For several long seconds, she simply looked at the ring. Finally, she whispered, I lost everything. I remained silent. My promotion disappeared. She swallowed hard. My firm asked me to resign. I listened without interrupting. My friend stopped calling. My mother barely speaks to me. She looked directly into my eyes. I kept believing success would make me happy. And did it. A tear rolled down her cheek. I never even reached success. She lowered her head. I destroyed my own future. I looked at the ring again. It sparkled exactly as it had on the night I asked her to marry me. Only now, it carried memories instead of hope. Victoria wiped her eyes with trembling fingers. I've replayed that day 1,000 times. I folded my hands. So have I. I thought choosing my career made me strong. What do you think now? I think I was afraid. Afraid of what? She took a slow breath. Afraid that love could disappear. So you pushed it away first? She nodded. I kept believing there would always be another chance. There isn't always. I know that now. Silence settled between us. She carefully removed the engagement ring from her finger and placed it on the table between us. I've worn it every day for the last month. I looked at the diamond. You once called it old-fashioned. I was wrong. You said it attracted too much attention. I was hiding behind excuses. I picked up the ring. Its familiar weight brought back the rooftop, the harbor, and the hopeful man I had been. I designed this because I thought it would become part of our family. It still can. I slowly looked up. Ethan, please. Her voice cracked. I love you. The words reached me too late. I finally understand what commitment means. I closed my hand around the ring. Understanding came after losing everything. She nodded through fresh tears. I deserve that. I never wanted your life to fall apart. I know. I wanted us to build something together. I know. She leaned forward. Please give me one more chance. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. My heart remembered every promise we had shared. My mind remembered every empty chair, every whisper, and every unanswered prayer on our wedding day. The battle inside me became almost unbearable. I still cared about the woman sitting across from me, but I no longer recognized the future she was asking me to believe in. I quietly opened my hand and looked at the ring once more. I slowly stood and walked toward the window with the ring resting in my palm. The afternoon sunlight reflected across the diamond exactly as it had the night I proposed. Victoria remained seated behind me. I know I've lost the right to ask, she whispered, but I had to try. I nodded. I'm glad you came. She looked surprised. You are, because we never truly finished our story. She stood beside me. I don't want it to end. I turned toward her. Victoria, I forgive you. Fresh tears filled her eyes. You do. I refuse to spend the rest of my life carrying bitterness. Hope appeared across her face. Then, can we start again? I gently shook my head. No. Her smile disappeared. I don't understand. I can forgive the past without rebuilding it. She covered her mouth as tears fell freely. I was too late. Yes, I finally became the woman you deserved. I answered softly. I needed that woman on our wedding day. She closed her eyes. I know. Very carefully, I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. I slowly removed the engagement ring from her finger. Neither of us spoke. When the ring rested in my hand once more, I closed the velvet box that I had kept since the night of my proposal. I offered her a gentle smile. I truly hope you find peace. What about you? I looked around my workshop. I already started finding mine. She nodded through quiet sobs. I'm sorry, Ethan. I believe you. She walked toward the door before stopping one final time. I'll always regret losing you. After she left, I locked the ring inside my safe again. This time, it no longer represented a broken promise. It represented a lesson I would never forget. Love could survive disappointment. Respect could survive heartbreak. But once trust was abandoned, even the deepest love could no longer carry two people toward the same future. 1 year changed more than I ever imagined. Every morning, I unlocked the doors to Brooks' atelier with quiet gratitude instead of quiet sadness. Customers traveled from across the country to visit my studio. They didn't come looking for the most expensive ring. They came looking for something honest. One afternoon, a young couple admired a display of handcrafted engagement rings. The man smiled at me. I've heard your rings have a story. I nodded. They do. What makes them different? I looked at the diamonds sparkling beneath the lights. I never design a ring to impress strangers. What do you design it for? I designed it to remind two people why they chose each other. He smiled. I like that. So do I. After they placed their order, I watched them leave hand in hand. For the first time in years, seeing another couple didn't remind me of loss. It reminded me that love still deserved to be celebrated. Later that afternoon, Claire walked into the studio carrying 2 paper coffee cups. I guess you skipped lunch again. I laughed. You're getting too good at reading me. I've had plenty of practice. She handed me 1 cup. Busy day. The busiest we've ever had. I heard another magazine featured your work. I still can't believe it. She smiled proudly. I can. I looked at her. You believed in me before anyone else did. I believe in the man behind the jewelry. Her words warmed me more than the coffee. I never thanked you properly. You don't have to. I do. She shook her head gently. I stayed because I wanted to. We stood quietly beside the workshop window. Neither of us rushed to fill the silence. It felt comfortable, safe, peaceful. I realized that over the past year, Claire had never demanded promises. She had simply kept showing up. Without realizing it, I had started doing the same. That simple truth made me smile long before I understood why my heart suddenly felt lighter than it ever had before. A week later, Claire and I met on the same rooftop overlooking Boston Harbor. The evening sky glowed with shades of gold and orange. She smiled as she leaned against the railing. I haven't been here since your proposal. Neither have I. Were you nervous about coming back? I thought I would be. And now, it doesn't hurt anymore. She looked at me with quiet understanding. I'm glad. The wind gently moved her hair across her face. She laughed softly while brushing it aside. You've been smiling a lot lately. I have a good reason. Do you? I finally stopped living in yesterday. She stepped closer. I noticed. We watched the boats drift across the harbor. Neither of us hurried the moment. Finally, I reached into my jacket. Claire noticed immediately. What are you hiding? I smiled. Something that has waited long enough. I carefully removed the familiar velvet box. Her eyes widened. Ethan, I held it gently between my hands. This ring has seen heartbreak. She stayed silent. It also reminded me that love cannot survive without trust. A tear formed in her eye. I never expected to see it again. I wasn't sure I ever would. I opened the box. The diamond reflected the last light of the sunset. Claire covered her mouth. I took a slow breath. Claire Bennett. She looked directly into my eyes. You stood beside me when everyone else expected me to fall. She quietly nodded. You never asked me to become someone different. I love the man you already are. You never tried to heal me. I only wanted to walk beside you. I smiled. And somehow, that's exactly what healed me. I felt my heartbeat quicken. For the second time in my life, I held this ring in my hands. This time, fear wasn't standing beside hope. Only peace remained between us as I prepared to ask the question that finally felt completely right. I slowly knelt before Claire. She stared at me with tears already shining in her eyes. I opened the velvet box completely. Claire, I said softly. 1 year ago, I believed this ring had become a symbol of failure. She gently shook her head. It was never the ring. No, it was the wrong story. I smiled. You're right. I looked into her eyes. I don't want to ask you because I'm lonely. She listened quietly. I don't want to ask you because I need someone to fix my past. A tear slipped down her cheek. I'm asking because every day beside you has felt like home. She covered her mouth. You showed me that love doesn't demand attention. I continued. It shows up. It stays. It chooses. I took a slow breath. Claire Bennett, will you marry me? For one beautiful moment, she couldn't speak. Then she laughed through her tears. Yes. She laughed again. Yes, Ethan, I'll marry you. My hands trembled as I gently placed the ring onto her finger. This time, nobody pulled away. Nobody hesitated. She looked at the diamond sparkling beneath the evening sky. It's beautiful. I smiled. It always was. She wrapped both arms around me. So are you. I laughed softly. I've waited a long time to hear that. We stood together overlooking Boston Harbor as the last rays of sunlight danced across the water. I realized something I had never understood before. The greatest revenge had never been making Victoria regret losing me. Real victory came from refusing to let betrayal harden my heart. Someone had once rejected this ring because they couldn't see its meaning. The woman beside me treasured it because she understood the love behind it. As I held Claire's hand and watched the sunset disappear beyond the harbor, I finally understood that the ring had never been waiting for the right moment. It had always been waiting for the right person. And so had my heart.